You're actually from the United States, actually from Texas, right?
That's correct. Yep.
And so the obvious question, to me at least, would be, were you influenced by Chuck Norris? Because he can do everything and he's from Texas, and he did in fact do a few kung fu movies in the early days, right?
Okay. Well, is Chuck Norris actually from Texas? I don't actually know that.
That's a good question. Yeah.
Because I think we all know Walker Texas Ranger, but I don't know if he's actually. I mean, it doesn't matter. I've never seen a Chuck Norris movie or TV show or so I've gotta nix that one. So sorry.
Okay.
Nope. Nope.
Sure. Yeah. But so what got you initially interested in China, or is it just like by coincidence that you ended up in China?
I would say so. I always knew that I was interested in history. History has been something I've always been fascinated with, and it was what I majored in college. And I knew that I wanted to be involved with history or be involved with teaching in some form or format since I was like probably around 13 years old. I've sort of always had that interest. And when I was at university, I took some history classes that were focused on like world civilization. And it was just a survey of world civilizations. And the professor really, really loved China and really loved talking about China. And you could just see him get so excited talking about China this and China that. And this was a man that I deeply admired and still do deeply admire. And so I took more and more of his classes, and so many of his classes, he always managed to somehow tie back into China and see like how China was involved during this, period, whether it was in trade or in politics or, for whatever reason. And, he kind of got me thinking maybe I could check out this China place. Mm-hmm. And then there was an opportunity to study abroad, and I took that chance, and then I liked it so much that I decided to come back and teach, and the rest is history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, obviously China, it's not just a big thing now, it has been a big thing for thousands of years, right? So, and the history is very interesting. I mean, sometimes I even feel some parts of the ancient Chinese history, they sound like Lord of the Rings also. Like with the Mongols are the horde and whatever. Right. Actually, they were the horde. The actual horde.
Right, yeah. There is something kind of to that, as weird as it sounds. I think kind of when you first start looking at Chinese history, it does seem very almost fantastical, sort of almost exotic. It's so different from what we've grown up learning in the USA or in Europe, such as yourself. We're learning about just the kings and the queens and the divine right of kings, and then the feudal system, and then, Spain and Britain and, all the... But yeah, then you learn about China, and they've got dynasties, and they've got there are these warlords, and then, the Manchus and the Mongols, and then, all these strange things. They seem strange to us because we've never encountered anything like it. So yeah, that was kind of what drew me to it. It's just so different.
Plus the mythical stories where there are some flying kung fu people or whatever kind of things, which I don't think they were actually flying, but yeah, maybe they exist.
Sure.
Yeah. So then the next question would be, what actually got you into making videos in China? I mean, I think for me at least, I thought about it for a couple of years, but I was always a little bit too shy to actually do it. So what got you started to actually do it?
I think one, I'm a huge YouTube fan. I don't watch television. I don't really watch movies, but I just
Same
consume. Yeah, I just consume YouTube all the time, and I have ever since YouTube like came out. Even before that, I was always on like eBaum's World or some site like that, Newgrounds. And so, yeah, so I knew that YouTube was a thing that people could use to post videos online. And I just never had anything interesting to say or to show until I moved to China. And then there was also this whole thing of like, I moved to China in 2011. And in 2011, nobody was making videos. The only person who was making videos was Winston, Serpent ZA, at the time. He was the only person making videos in China. And he was down in Shenzhen, down in Guangzhou. And I was going to move to Gansu, which is essentially an entirely different country.
It's the kind of the Silk Road area, right?
Yes, yeah, it's like a very Muslim, and it's like Muslim and Uyghur, and also a lot of Han as well. Yeah, it's Silk Road City for sure, and it's essentially a whole different country. And I said, like, this guy's videos in Shenzhen aren't helping me at all. So when I moved to China, I want to give people information that I wish I had had before coming. That's essentially how the whole thing got started, just to put out information.
Yeah. And you never had any hesitations? You were never like thinking, oh, like everyone else, all my family will see me on YouTube or whatever. You never had this issue or so?
Well, no, I think it was part of the reason that I wanted to do it was so that I could, like, originally it was sort of, along with putting out information, it was also a video diary, and it sort of still is a video diary, because, I mean, you think about it, not very many people get the chance to live abroad, so I want to share this experience with my friends and with my family, and if other people want to watch it, sweet, sweet. Yeah, and I don't really make problematic content or like weird, violent, or, I don't make any strange content really. So anybody who watches me, they're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, basically your YouTube channel is basically about your life in China, right? And maybe some adventures and so on. I mean, some trips to interesting places and so on. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So then I'm sorry to ask you that question, but I thought it could be an interesting one. But yeah, I wanted to ask you, what was the most dangerous moment ever when you made those videos, like where you almost hit by a car once or whatever, or some people really didn't like that you came here with a camera or things like that?
Yeah, I've had almost hit by insert vehicle here, like a moped, a motorcycle, or a bus or whatever. Those have all been my fault, by the way, because I'm filming and I'm not necessarily looking. That's happened plenty of times. I think I've never had a problem with people like getting angry at me and telling me to like shut off the camera or they're going to beat me up or whatever. I've never had anything like that.
I mean, most people in China are quite easygoing, right? So,
yeah, most people are just super camera shy. When you pull out a camera, they will instantly kind of shut down. They don't know what to do and they don't want to do anything. That's like the biggest problem you'll encounter most of the time. But the most dangerous, I would probably say filming along the Guangxi and Vietnam border. That was probably that was one of the very few times that I felt like it didn't feel dangerous. It was just really weird because it's the Chinese and Vietnamese border. It's only separated by a tiny river. That at some points there's no fence, there's no like guard, it's just open, you can just go across if you want. and there are certain parts where you're going along the border and you're just seeing these little boats just with stuff on the boats, and you don't know what's on those boats, but they're crossing the border in this certain area of Asia, and going along these roads and seeing these like bands of people just sitting by the side of the road, and they're all men and they're all like in their 40s. They're not really doing anything. They're just kind of standing there waiting. And it's not a bus stop. There's no signpost, because no matter where you are, like if there's a bus that's going to rock up, there's at least a pole or there's a bench or there's some sort of demarcation for people to stand at. And it was just, that felt really weird because I didn't know what was going on. There's fields of like weed and hemp and stuff everywhere. And, signs about the military and signs about drugs. And it was very strange. It was a weird vibe.
Yeah.
Not necessarily dangerous, just felt weird, but beautiful area.
Nobody was chasing you, or you weren't actually in real danger. It was just a strange feeling. And
yes.
I mean, sometimes maybe that's also a little bit the feeling with like, I have the feeling that could be also similar to people who hear about China and don't know much about China. It's just like this big thing that you don't really know what's going on there. And then naturally you will be a little bit afraid of it because you have no idea what's going on there and so on. So I think probably in that respect, they just have to learn more, watch your videos or things like that. So, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, the fear of the unknown is a really powerful thing. It's extraordinarily potent, and I don't think a lot of people take that seriously enough. That fear, they don't think of that as a factor, but it really is. There's so much people don't know about China, and they assume that China's just a monolithic kind of everything is the same as it is on the news, and everybody everywhere in China has the same opinions and same lifestyle and same political beliefs and same this and same that, when it's just not true.
I mean, that's impossible with a country with over 1 billion people. I mean,
that's right. Yeah.
So, okay, then, so let's move on. So how do the local people here in China usually react when they see you doing your videos? You said some of them don't like to be on the video, so they shy away a little bit. But you've never had like people getting angry, or I mean, some people may have been getting angry or not.
Yeah, there's generally two reactions. The two reactions are like, if I've got this called up and I'm filming this thing and I see someone in front of me, they'll usually go, whoa, and they'll kind of go off to the side so that they're not in the video, because they think that maybe I'm filming in front, so they're trying to get out of the even though I'm filming myself, they think I'm filming this way, so they get out of the way.
Yeah.
Or like they'll see that I'm filming myself like this, and then they'll come up behind and they'll say hello or something. Those are the two reactions, generally speaking. They'll say hello, or they'll say like, welcome to China, or they'll say something. But yeah, those are the two reactions.
Yeah. But like you as a foreigner, they probably see you as like some kind of a little bit a VIP person also, right? In China, sometimes you get this kind of reaction that as a foreigner, you are something special or so, and then maybe they think there's something important going on if there's a foreigner with a camera or whatever.
Okay. So I hadn't quite thought of it in that way. So depending on where you are and what you're wearing and how you're filming it, people will treat you differently because they'll think journalist, right? They'll think journalist. And the idea of a foreign journalist on the street is a little bit different than a vlogger, because vlogging has taken off in China in the past couple of years. Actually, so a lot of Chinese vloggers and live streamers now. So, so yeah, it sort of depends. So I don't wear suits in my videos. I just wear t-shirts in this, and I've usually just got the camera like that, so they know that I'm not a journalist. So usually they'll just kind of let me do my thing. If I'm in a small town or if I'm in a village or something, then they'll kind of freak out because they have no idea what's happening. But I usually don't get any special treatment.
Okay, so then maybe let's just skip a few questions. There's too many questions to you. I don't want to hold you off for the whole day.
Hey, it's Saturday, man. Just let's do it.
Okay. You have been teaching English in all over China. I think there's not many other like English teachers from abroad in China who have been teaching in so diverse places like you in China.
Yeah.
So one question is also like, the first place you was in Gansu, right? The first place was in Gansu.
Yep.
And you stayed there for like 2 or 3 years, or?
Yeah, I taught for 2 years and I studied for almost a year.
Oh, okay, yeah. And so, what was the reason why you didn't just return back home to the United States? Did you think there was just so much more you could explore in China, and therefore you accepted a different position somewhere else? Or because I think usually many people, they are maybe in China for a few years and then they return back home, right?
Yes, yeah, that is. Oh man, yeah, that's something I've been meaning to make a video about myself, is that idea of the expat turnover, right? It's 2 to 4 years and then they go home, right? So, I think it's what you said about exploring, I think, is what drew me to China and has kind of kept me here for a long time, because what drew me in was just the fact that there was so much to learn. There's so much to learn, not just language, not just about cultural ways, but there's so many weird little daily things about, like, how do you take a taxi? Or if a taxi driver asks you this question and you don't necessarily want to answer, how do you navigate that within his culture and within his language? Or, if you want to go to someplace off the beaten path, how do you do that? If you want to enter into a business negotiation, how do you do that? There's just so many things that you can learn. And I think that was a real draw for me. And going back home and working, I was living with my dad and my stepmom at the time, and my dad could just see that I wasn't happy. I was making a lot of money, but he just saw that I wasn't happy, and he just kind of said, "Hey, go back to China. I can see that you're not happy here. Just go back and find something you like doing." That's how I got back.
So basically, in essence, it was that it didn't get boring to you. So you kept on going. Basically, it stayed interesting. Basically, over
yes, yeah, and you can find interest, and you can find things to explore. No matter where you live, it's just you have to go out and look for it. But I just find that here there's so much to dig into because it's such a big country. There's so many places to explore.
It's like a universe by its own.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so here comes the question that I always want to ask, like almost everyone. And that is, when you see the Chinese students, they're learning really hard. I mean, from what I can see, from what I heard and so on.
Yeah.
And here in Europe, I don't know how it is in the States, but here in Europe, the kids here definitely don't learn as hard as in China when it comes to like mathematics and other subjects and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So will that balance out somehow, or what would it take for it to balance out, or is it basically impossible because you can never you can never tell the kids here in Europe or in the States to learn the whole day because they just won't do it.
Right. Yeah, it's okay. All right. It's okay. So there's a lot to unpack in this question. One, it's hard to compare because the environments are so vastly different. China is so much more competitive than Europe or the United States. There are so many more students. Like, there are more students in school in China than there are people in the USA. Like, that just tells you a little bit about how many. Like, there's more people in school than in the entire USA. And the spots for university are so limited, and the spots for a good high school are so limited that the kids are sort of forced into this. If they had any sort of choice, they would probably, want to, live more like American kids. When I talk about my experience going to school, my university students light up and they're like, wow, that was what your life was like, Yeah. So I think the competition plays into that, and also the family values. There's such a focus on education here that doesn't exist as much in the United States. So there is that. And I think the USA focuses more on overall development, developing social skills, as well as critical thinking skills, as well as teaching basic fundamental knowledge and facts. Whereas in China, I think the focus is more on, let's build up your knowledge of basic facts. And we'll try to put in the other stuff when we can, if we can. There are two different priorities. So I think if the US wants to catch up in the basic facts category, like maybe the math or the geography or things like this, STEM subjects, I think the US needs to have a conversation about how important is education, because I feel like there's a big anti-intellectual movement right now, and there's too much of a focus on social media. So there needs to be a rearranging of priorities.
And like in China, I mean, people may think, that's the state wants them to learn as much as possible, but actually there's something even much more powerful in China than the state, which is the family. And I think the parents, they put full pressure on their kids to excel and make a career and earn money and things like that, right? So this is like almost Chinese culture, I would say, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Parents wouldn't do it.
It's the whole thing about the big thing with family here is, or I suppose with education, is like education is, like in China, it's almost your only way out. It's your only path to success.
And in many cases, it is a way out, right? I mean,
but in somewhere, but then like somewhere like in the USA or in Europe, like you can take so many paths outside of traditional education. But here it's not that way. It's a different set of priorities.
Okay, so maybe then another question would be, what do you think is the current level of English language within the Chinese population? So when you walk around the streets in Chengdu, where you live right now, do you think most people could like understand some basic English, or what do you think?
I think it would depend on it depends. The short answer is it depends. If you're in Chengdu and you are in, let's say, the south of Chengdu, the more kind of developed, more cosmopolitan area of Chengdu, and if you were to speak to someone who's, let's say, 30 or younger, I think there's a pretty good chance that they would know some basic English. At least they might be able to understand what I say or what you say if we speak slowly. But if they were to try to communicate with us, like if they were to try to speak, it would be virtually nothing apart from a few words. The receptive skills, like listening and reading, are much stronger. But if you were to go out to a small town in China, or to go to a tier like 3 city or something, you wouldn't find anybody basically that I would think. If you did, it would be maybe kids who are still in school, because they would still be taking English classes. So I would say if someone gets lost in China, go find a kid who's about 16. Ask them, especially like a girl. Girls seem to take to language here more than boys do. So go find that sounds weird. I was going to say, go find a 16-year-old girl. It sounds weird, but I'm talking about talking.
Learning all the time, yeah.
Yeah, because they're still in school, and girls tend to be better at language here anyway.
Yeah, and you think it will improve, right? Because like the younger people in China, their English skills are already much better, and so maybe in 20 years or so, there's probably quite a lot of people who can understand a little bit of English.
Yeah, yeah, it's a fascinating question actually, because there are some sort of rumblings within the government and within the academic community about the role of English in education here. There have been little hints and little like lines that have been dropped that kind of would point to them dropping English from certain parts of the curriculum, or dropping English from the college entrance examination, or dropping
in order to promote their own language more, right?
Yes.
That is the reason.
Yeah. So that they can promote the renminbi as a international currency, to promote Chinese as the international language eventually. But the students have been getting better every year. Their English gets better and better and better every year. And people still want to go abroad. They still want to work for international companies. So it's so hard to say. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know.
Has many viewpoints. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So these were the difficult questions. Now it's all easy from now on.
All right. Let's relax.
Sure. Yeah. So maybe just some questions to the daily life. So in general, how has the average Chinese person, or how have the Chinese people treated you in general, as an American in China, or as a foreigner in China?
I don't feel, it's hard to answer this question now because I've been here so long, and Maybe I don't pay much attention to the reactions anymore. Because, I remember, I think it also depends on where you live. Chengdu, there are so many foreigners. Not as many as, let's say, Shanghai or Shenzhen or Beijing, but there's so many foreigners that I think in most parts of Chengdu, if I walk down the street, nobody's going to stare at me. No one's going to point or really pay me any mind. But if I go up to North Chengdu, where it's still super old school and there's no foreigners up there, when I did my last live stream up there, I did notice a lot of looks. Yeah, I mean, people are if they have any reactions, it's generally just with curiosity. Can you speak Chinese? How long have you been here? What do you think about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? It's curious.
But it's nothing like foreigner get out or something like this, right? It's not like
I have had
why
that.
are
yes.
you here in China? I mean,
I have
not
had
very
that.
frequent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not frequent. I think I've had that maybe 3 times. Maybe 3 times, maybe, or 4 times in the 10 years that I've been here.
Okay.
So it's really not frequent. Yeah. I mean, what I see on the internet, I see that all everywhere. But in terms of like face to face on the street, people are pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned that like there's so many foreigners in Chengdu already, and and so whoever is watching this, this video, and doesn't know about Chengdu, and you just hear there's so many foreigners in Chengdu already, maybe that's the time to get yourself informed about Chengdu, because it is a huge city and a very important one in China.
Oh yeah.
All right. So, do you think China has been? I know it sounds like a little bit like an American question, but do you think China has been a land of opportunity for you personally?
Oh, that's what you mean. Okay. Yeah. I was trying to. What do you mean an American question? Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think. I do think that it is a land of opportunity in some respects. Yeah, in some respects, absolutely. Because the key to success in life, right, is to have a skill that is in demand, and that is hard to fill it's in demand and there's short supply, and you have to be good at that skill. And I think if you think of it in terms of that, China is sort of open for business, for teachers, especially like history teachers, math teachers, physics, geography, history, even drama and art, dance. And if you're a teacher and you're dedicated to your craft and you really want to try something new, China is ripe for the taking. There's so many opportunities here. And even engineers, I know foreign architects and software engineers, and I know restaurant owners and events coordinators and people who work on the electric grid. They work on the power grid here. Yeah. And I mean, there's, teaching is the biggest industry, definitely, but it's not the only one, for sure. If you have a skill, especially related to teaching or related to tech, you can get a job here, for sure. For sure, you can get a job here. I think in terms of that, yeah, for sure.
Cool, yeah. Yes, and then since I think before I saw your spouse was sitting on the sofa behind you.
Oh, can you see her? Oh,
I don't know whether she's still there. Before I saw her a little bit. Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, what does your spouse think of your videos? She thinks you should do something else, maybe something that makes more money, because like in China, like the money making thing is also important to many families, or
right. So we have been talking the last year or so about finding jobs that that pay a higher salary, sure. But she's been pretty supportive. She's been very supportive of kind of whatever I feel is best for my career, whatever I feel is, whatever gives meaning to me and makes me happy. She's been very, happy to go along with. But yeah, as we've gotten a little bit older, we've started thinking about like savings and putting things away for the future and things like that. But it's something we sort of made together. Yeah, she's been just super supportive kind of all the way. She's got my back.
Cool, yeah. That sounds good. Well,
Yeah.
Happy for you, yeah. Happy for you. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah. Yeah. And then maybe just a general question. Of course, you've been in China now since 12 years or so, right?
It's been about 10 years. Yeah, 10 years.
Oh, 10 years, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe now you're not very surprised anymore, but like, what were like the things during these 10 years? I mean, the changes that surprised you the most. For example, like for 10 years, I think there was hardly any high-speed trains in China, right? Or
yeah. Yeah. So I think there are really two changes that have really changed China. Three changes that have really made a difference here. Yeah, one would be the high-speed rail for sure. Just connecting so many places together that used to be such a pain to get to. Like going to my wife's hometown used to be a 3-hour bus ride, 3 or 4 hour bus ride from Chengdu. And now it's less than an hour on the train. And then
wow.
And yes, and it's just a small town. It connects all these small towns to the big cities, and the big cities are all connected to each other. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Like it used to take like almost 24 hours to get from like Xi'an to Chengdu. Now it takes 4. You know,
and by train or by airplane or
train. Yeah,
by
train.
Okay.
And then so the train is one of them. WeChat is another one, because WeChat has been able to connect so many different things together. You can order like delivery, you can call a taxi, you can get a bike, you can...
Is what? Can you explain what WeChat is? I mean, I know it, of course, but maybe not our...
For the people, yeah. WeChat is sort of like it's an online messaging program, sort of like WhatsApp or Line or something like that. It's just an instant, messaging program, but you can also video chat, you can voice chat. But there are all these third-party things, these third-party applications that you can use within WeChat. So you can like call a taxi using WeChat, one app. You can book movie tickets via WeChat. You can use payment systems via WeChat. You can pay for stuff. You can donate to charity. You can buy train tickets. You can, there's so many things you can do within WeChat that basically any sort of service that you want in your life, you can find somebody somewhere on WeChat.
Okay.
It's changed everything. Yeah. And let's see. I forgot what the third one was. I got so excited about WeChat.
Maybe that's the third one is already included in WeChat. So.
Oh yeah, it was mobile payments. That was it. Yeah, it was mobile payments.
It is included in WeChat then. Yeah.
Yeah, it is included in WeChat. Like the fact that I can just open up my phone and just go beep and pay for something that quickly. No matter where I am, I have been so deep in China, so far away from any train station, any bus station. Like I've been walking out of a cave into a mountain valley in the middle of Sichuan where there are no buildings in sight, but there's a guy who's got a bunch of bananas just on the side of the path. There's no road. And he's selling, he's got his WeChat QR code to sell bananas to me and the one other guy that was there that day. Like crazy.
and like everyone has it, right? So like young kid or like teenagers have it. Very old people also have it. In the countryside, as you said, they use it. Like it's everywhere because like internet access, that also improved a lot, right? You can get high-speed internet in many places, even in places you wouldn't expect it, right?
That's right. Yeah. It's the big unifying factor. It's so crazy. Everyone will have WeChat or QQ, even if they don't share anything else in common. Yeah.
Okay. Then a thing that we've already discussed a little bit, but just in general, so public transportation, that is a thing in China, right? And it's even a thing that perhaps it's even more convenient now than individual transportation, almost, right? Or
yeah, for sure.
In what ways, for example, or how are you using public transportation? Like,
right. So I would say I use public transportation in a couple of scenarios. One, if I'm going somewhere that's a little bit further out, I will use the metro because the metro never suffers from like traffic jams. There's never any accidents. There's never like any problems with the metro. So you just take the metro wherever you go, especially like further distances. Or you can take a shared bike, because I'll put that into public transportation because they're public bikes. So for short distances, I'll use those little public bikes. I also have my bike and my e-bike. But, or if I'm going somewhere where I know I can't park my bike or my e-bike, then I take a DD or I take the bus, something like that.
A DD is an Uber basically in China, right?
Yes, that's right. Yep. And, and just all of those options are so much better than just saying like, oh, let me go start up the car, and then like I gotta go get gas, and then I've gotta, make sure I've got air in the tires, and it's gotta be clean, and I gotta pay the insurance and just pay for parking and all that. No thanks. Yeah.
And it's basically, most of it is basically clean, convenient, punctual, and I would also say more or less cheap, right? High-speed trains, maybe for some Chinese people, they're not that cheap, but the subway is usually quite cheap, even for Chinese.
Right. And and the high-speed trains are not the only train in China. They still have the K trains, and they have, they still have like the normal trains, which are cheaper and a bit slower. But yeah, everything's generally speaking pretty clean, pretty easy to access. Sometimes the taxis can be a bit iffy, but everything else is fine.
Yeah. And again, you just order and pay for it all on the same app, WeChat, right? Basically.
Yep. It's all in there.
So like here in Europe, and I guess also in the States, but especially here in Europe or also in Switzerland where I am. So like a couple of years ago, there was like this big story about the shared bikes in China, and then there was just kind of like thing that people knew was going on the other side of the globe, and then finally there were some bad news where like everywhere you could see the pictures of like hundreds or thousands of shared bikes piled up on and then moved for recycling or whatever. And then everyone here, or at least many people here in Europe or in Switzerland, thought, okay, yeah, they don't know how to do this, and yeah, so of course it failed and whatever. But now you said shared bikes, they're still a thing in China.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah. Shared bikes did not fail here. Shared bikes did not fail here. Some companies failed. Yeah, because when the idea first kind of when the idea first sort of entered the marketplace, there was this like gold rush for everyone to get in and capitalize on this new idea. This new idea of like the shared economy. So there were so many. There was Mobike, and there was Ofo, there was Blue Gogo, there was Yong'an, there were I think Didi was just getting started. There were so many companies that were getting started up, and not everyone can survive, you know? Not everyone can survive. So, you know, a lot of these just went out of business, and you know, those are the ones that you see in the graveyards, or those ones that don't really exist anymore. The ones in Chengdu are Meituan and Hello Bike and Didi. So we still have 3 companies that are going pretty strong here in Chengdu.
And people use it regularly, right? They're not just standing around and nobody's using them, right?
No, they're used every day. When you walk out of the gate of a complex, an apartment complex, in the morning, you will see, like, let's say it's 7 a.m. or 6:30 a.m. There are bikes everywhere around the entrance and exit. They're everywhere. Like, there's no sidewalk anymore. But by about 8 a.m., all of those bikes will be gone. Like, the south gate of my neighborhood here, every morning there's probably 200 to 300 bikes, and they're all gone by 8 a.m. And then when you go to the subway station, you go to the metro station, they're all there. And then when people get off work, they ride them back to the neighborhood. So it's just, so yeah, they're used for sure.
Wow, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, then maybe a few things about Chengdu, and then I think we close this session then soon. So first of all, like a little bit of advertising for Chengdu.
Let's do it.
Is Chengdu worth visiting?
yeah, I think so. Yeah, it does. It does sound like an advertisement, doesn't it? But yeah, I mean, I've been in this city for 6 years. Yeah, 6 years I've been living here, and I wouldn't still be here if I didn't enjoy the city. Like I said this in my live stream this morning. I did a live stream about my favorite books about China that's gone up this afternoon, but someone asked me in between segments about just about Chengdu, and like, why do I like Chengdu better than somewhere like Shanghai or Beijing? And so I just think Chengdu does such a good job of balancing like old Chengdu and new Chengdu. There's such a, like, it's so great because you can walk around and there's a huge shopping mall, there's a huge this or huge that, and then you turn and then you see an old building that's been preserved as a historical marker, or you see like the electrical box has been painted with pictures of old Chengdu, or you see like historical marker here, or you see this old bridge here. Like, there are reminders everywhere of where Chengdu has come from and how Chengdu came to be, where things like that don't exist in Shanghai. Shanghai destroyed all of its history, like as it was developing, pretty much. You don't really see much of that. And Chengdu's still a growing city. So not only does it balance these two things, but it also is still growing.
And also
I love it here.
It's quite a modern city, right? You have if you want skyscrapers, there are skyscrapers, no problem, right? Yeah.
Yep. And you don't want for anything here, really, because there are restaurants. Like if you're the sort of person who wants food from back home, you can go to so many different types of American restaurants or Mexican restaurants, Italian restaurants, Greek restaurants, so many different things, Israeli restaurants and Mediterranean places. And there's so many places. It's so diverse, the expat community here. But if you don't want to live in the expat community, that's totally possible as well. Like the locals are super laid back, super chill, and they're open and up for anything.
Cool, yeah. And staying at Chengdu, so Chengdu is basically the capital of the pandas in the world, right?
Sure.
I mean, the actual pandas, the animals.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's also a lot of things that are panda themed in Chengdu, because I think the large panda station is just nearby Chengdu, right? So are there crazy things going on with those pandas as well here in Chengdu, or what is the coolest thing you have seen connected to pandas here?
Oh, okay. So, hey, psst, can you find a picture of that panda taking the selfie? So there's
actually, you can send me the picture later. I will just paste it into the video.
Okay. All right. So there's a picture somewhere. It's like a park or something, and there's a giant new panda statue. The panda's laying on the ground like this, and it's smiling, and it's taking a selfie like this on the ground. That one, I think Crystal just showed it to me yesterday, or maybe the day before. That's the newest one that I've seen, but it's massive. It's like 30 or 40 meters tall, and it's 20 meters wide or so. It's a massive statue. And then there's in the IFS building, in Chengdu, there's a giant. Oh yeah, it's kind of hard to see. Well, I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you later. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see. There's the IFS building has this statue of a panda climbing up over the side of the building.
King Kong or so, yeah.
yeah, like that. And then whenever you go anywhere, and you get a souvenir of some kind, the souvenir is going to have a panda on it. I bet this does. Yep, it does. Some students did an interview with me for their project, and they gave me one of these little trinkets
nice.
This as a thank you for that. It's just little trinkets like this little bookmark. Everything is panda related. Everything. Because it is. Even when you get in the taxis, they put the meter down, and it says in Chinese first, and then it says in English, it says, "Welcome to Chengdu, the home of pandas and the land of abundance." It says in English. And there's pandas on all the taxis. And I mean, dude, pandas, you can't escape them.
and I think the Chinese word for panda, I think it's called xiongmao, right? Xiongmao,
you got it, xiongmao. Mm-hmm.
That means bear cat. Is that
bear cat? Bear cat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we know it. Okay.
Yep.
And maybe just to close this session, just the last question for which we all have been waiting for is there are, of course, these famous movies, Kung Fu Panda, and so on. And so I want to ask you this question. Are there any pandas doing Kung Fu in China? You must know it.
I think it's sort of like Toy Story. They only do Kung Fu when people aren't watching.
Okay. So yes, but nobody has seen them.
Right. Yeah. It's just one of those things, man. Just one of those things.
During the night when nobody sees it, they are doing
there you
Kung
go. Yep. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, Austin. Sure. It was a real pleasure to have this interview with you. And yes, I wish you all the best. And again, everyone should visit your channel on YouTube. It's called Austin in China, as you wrote it here.
Yep.
And yeah, this is, as other YouTubers have said before, this is the real China. So,
sure.
On your channel.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. I'm just trying to share some information, just trying to share my experience. Yeah. Nothing more, nothing less.
Yes. Cool. Okay. Thanks again. Have a great day. And yeah, I'll watch your next videos later this day.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I'll see you when I see you.
Yes. Thank you.
Right.
Okay. See you. Bye.
Okay.
Austin.
Bye.